This is Detlev here, Wake News Radio in our UNITEDWESTRIKE Radio-Marathon on September 14th, 2013. Remember, every second Saturday a month we try to manage to be live. Okay, well, there are circumstances which may prevent to do this, and we talk about this today. I'm sure about this exercise where they want to take our electric grid down. Whether this is going to be in a false flag attack, as we are, used to, sort of, by the dominant insane minority and their governments. It could also be maybe a natural event which they are using to even enforce their powers to be. Okay, we will learn about this maybe later on or during the next radio marathon, because they're preparing now in between October 1st and November 13th. There will be things happening. Okay, but we have now the great opportunity to meet and greet Karen Quinn-Tostado, who is the founder of the UNITEDWESTRIKE initiative. And I'm very happy to announce that today it's Karen's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
To me.
Happy birthday, dear Karen. Happy birthday to you. Well, we are singers, aren't we? Karen, hi. Welcome.
Nice job.
Yeah, well, I mean, you are a singer. I'm not, but you used to sing a lot. Now, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you did, and how you got to the idea to create UNITEDWESTRIKE, and then get into the issues? And I'm happy to listen to you and our audience as well.
Well, I want to thank you first, Detlev, because I may have been the founder, but you have been the co-founder right along. You have been there every step of the way. And while I needed to step back from the marathons, you've continued. Matt has stepped up, and they are ongoing. But through all of this, you were, you and I were the most steadfast, because we all have lives. It's difficult to make a commitment, but I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because without you, Detlev, this would not be possible either.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the words. And lots of people here in our chat rooms on my website, wakenews.net, Wake News Radio, are greeting you as well and wishing you a great birthday. They're saying this also in German. Alles Gute zum Geburtstag. Right? You can speak a little German, don't you? Can't you?
Guten Tag. That's about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot for, I mean, make a long story short. I mean, the basic thing is that we at least started something. And when I listened to you when you were on the Alex Jones show, before we met, I mean, I was impressed. And I think still today, what your thoughts were, and you marked these headlines like "Don't buy, don't comply, ask why." I mean, this is a great idea. Maybe you can explain how you got to that and what those expressions really mean.
Well, my entire life I have been upset by inequality, by poverty, by war, and I know it's a lie. And just recently, what occurred to me is that in my heart, I know that murder is immoral, and ignoring murder is immoral. And we have been put into a society where we're taught to ignore that and to go against our better judgment, because we all know that the murder of innocent sleeping people is immoral, that President Obama simply saying, yes, this is a terrorist, I want him dead, can have someone here just press a button, send a drone, and 50 innocent people die. And while we hear a lot about stepping into a higher consciousness, my question and my sense of urgency is, when do we do that? Do we continue to talk, or do we finally step into it? And so I've realized that all along our refusal to point out what is wrong, and that murder and war is wrong. War is a huge atrocity perpetrated upon millions of people for conquest and control. And when we look back and we see that all of these wars have been set up, they're false flags, I believe we have a duty to ourselves to reject, to renounce it, and to step aside, to not participate and to not fund it. And that's where don't comply, or well, don't buy, don't comply, and ask why. Originally, it came from don't buy anything that you don't check out for yourself. Don't buy the media who tell you that we must murder people because we're incapable of solving our problems through negotiations. Don't buy anything from the big multinational corporations, Monsanto, who are poisoning our natural world. Don't buy anything from these corporations who want your slave tracker toys to allow them to know exactly where you are. Just don't buy it. Research for yourself, and don't comply by keeping your money in these institutions that are eviscerating us. Don't comply by simply going along with the system. Don't be a drone in a uniform. Ask the bigger questions. What are we here for anyway? Don't comply by thinking that our history is the one that we see in the books, because history is written by the winners. So ask why. Why are we here? Why are we living in a world where we've got chemicals that are being dumped on us from the sky, toxic chemicals all over the world, and especially here in the not-so-United States, toxic chemicals, and then we've got our president of the corporation of the not-so-United States who's talking about the illegal use of gas and weapons in other parts of the world when they're dropping them on our heads daily. Why are we so distracted? And television is a huge part of that. Programming. It's not called programming for nothing. So basically, the whole idea is at least one day to unite in our far greater numbers, because if and when more of us want peace than war, it will happen. When we understand we've been brainwashed into living our lives for someone else's dream, and that actually we don't have quality of life, we have quantity of lies that we're drowning underneath. When we finally look around and see how our world and our families are eviscerated by the very people who claim to want to save us, who have actually manipulated all this and brought us here. Barack Obama is a war criminal. George Bush Sr., Jr., the Bush-Clinton cabal, all war criminals. Condoleezza Rice, a war criminal. Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, appropriately named war criminal. This really is enabled by our continued participation. And so we ask that people actually take the time to stop being pushed over the cliff, to stop supporting these multinational corporations. Nestle wants to own the water. We need to pull back. We need to say, no, you cannot murder my children. You cannot train us to wear the uniforms, to enslave ourselves. But until we do that, until we really recognize it, we continue to hurl forward into the abyss. And Detlev, lately I've really been doing a lot of thinking as well about this, because it is difficult to get people to wrap their minds around the idea that instead of marching and picketing, they can stay home in their communities. They can have food and water, and everyone should be prepared for the false flag that's getting ready to take place. They have to distract us. Syria is not going the way that they want it to go. We are still being misled by murdering war profiteers. 83% of the congressmen who promote the war have these big checkbooks or these big accounts that are funded by the military-industrial complex. We don't have money here for education. We don't have money for health care, but we have an unending supply for death and destruction. And my question to everyone out there is that until we collectively realize that nothing is more important than stopping war and the destruction of our planet, because it is immoral, we will get more of the same. Because is it not immoral, Detlev, to postpone addressing these atrocities when they occur?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's stunning. I mean, if listening to you, and it's like a film which is rolling on. I mean, it's basically you can see what they have done to us, and you can identify how easy it could be to stop them if we just would do what you just said, right?
If we just stop, yeah, it would be much easier than we've been lied to believe. And the tragedy is for all of us. And I also, as someone who's been very interested in the spiritual side of life, I was raised a Catholic. I renounced that early. I do not believe there is only one faith that will get us to heaven. I do not believe that we end here. I do believe we're spirit having a human experience. And as I have gone about trying to figure out what's the best way, how can we unite? It's been a long, hard road, because we are so trained to fight with one another, but we're not even fighting our battles. We're fighting for the lies in history that we've been taught to believe. We believe more in lies than our lives. And it's really time to step up. And back in 2008, Detlef, when I first began realizing I needed to step out, I needed to do something, and I was getting the website taxholiday2009.net ready to go with the help of Max Egan from thecrowhouse.com. One thing that I had overlooked until just recently was we were staying in the same park in just a different location. And while I don't necessarily hear voices from my spirit guides, and I look for that, I'd like to hear a voice. I'd like to have something definitely tell me I'm not talking to myself. However, I do have signs and inklings. And I went outside and it was raining, and I literally saw the end of the rainbow 20 feet in front of me, which I had never seen before. And I also took that as an affirmation that I should be speaking out and using my voice to try and unite us all in a cause that is the biggest cause of our lives, and that is peace and the ability to live our lives. And now when I look at the prophecies of the Rainbow Warrior Tribe, there are people of all ages and creeds and colors who come together to unite and create a better world, and thereby become the heroes of their own lives. And so this is a call to remind us of what we already know, because in our hearts we do know murder is wrong. And the best way to prevent that is simply to withdraw support. And so my appeal is to all of us, what would happen if we took our money out of the banks, if we cashed in our retirement before they took it away from us, if we stopped gambling on Wall Street and figured, instead of trying to gauge these markets that are already set with insider trading, why don't we crash them? Why don't we take our money out at the same time of these institutions that deal in blood money? Why don't we, the people, understand that regardless of what color we are, regardless of what we've been taught to believe, that divine spark is within each and every one of us. And they've got us supporting war and profiteers by working and living our lives as usual when our governments are murdering, stealing from, and violating innocent people globally through the atrocities of war and profit. And if we were a civilized people, we would not believe in war, because it is the most heinous of all crimes, destroying everything. And we would not allow our money to be used for that. We would instead demand that all of our troops are sent home to their countries to help rebuild and hold those accountable who brought us here. And we could do that through our numbers. Imagine that. Imagine our families being brought home because we said in unison, we refuse to work until peace is declared. All troops are sent home to their home countries to help rebuild and hold those accountable who brought us here. And most importantly, to get the medical care they so badly deserve. And I don't mean the only kind of care that's acceptable now. I mean, we need to blow the lid off of all these institutions who've been lying from us. They create cancer for us. They create our diseases. They create autism so they can have slaves who will work for them, who will be trained to do little jobs while being self-entertained without wanting to have a family. We've got to look at all of this and rise together, because until we do, that elusive dream which tells us to wait until someone else saves us, that carrot in front of the stick, will always be out there. And I talked to Drake yesterday, who's been saying we need to wait. And I had a conversation in Skype with him, and he keeps telling me that we need to wait, that they're taking care of it, that they're doing something to really moderate and negate the effects of Fukushima, when all the other news out there tells me that that isn't true. So it's up to us. We either continue to wait while people tell us to do that, or what we do is succumb to the violence all around us. And we may not make it through this time. We may destroy ourselves, as it looks like we've done in the past. But my appeal is to those of us who understand in their hearts that basically we can stop this when we unite and refuse to play their game by their rules. They're war criminals. And it's time. Is it not, Detlev?
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. And that's very true. I mean, once we can, learn or get the consciousness that we actually possess power by rejecting, and that we can make something of this and can influence what is happening on our earth and influence our future as well for our humanity, right? Then this is really or will be exploding, a new dimension, sort of living could get into realization. So I'm very happy that you express yourself here so eloquently for our audience, which is following the news, even though lots of them are here from the German-speaking area and are not natively speaking English, but they are following your news, which I can see here in our chat room. So they are sending you also lots of greetings for what you said. Yeah, I think, Karen, this is very important, and it's also important to give examples, right? Isn't it?
It is. Well, if people want to go and look, I actually found taxfree15.com is actually still online. I'm not currently working on that any longer, but there is information about the success of strikes on there. And the only time that they get violent is through government-sanctioned intervention, because they value profit over people. We just passed Labor Day here, which is it was the remembrance of the Pullman Railroad strike that got people in this country to rise up and to strike. But they were opposed, again, by government. There were people who were murdered by government. The Ludlow massacre with the Rockefellers. We've got to understand we are more than we've been lied to believe. And for those of us who do believe that we're spirit, then we need also to begin to ask ourselves, why are we so afraid of death? It's a doorway. It goes to another dimension. There are many, many cases online. People can look up near-death experiences. I suggest listening to Anita Moorjani. Anita, Moorjani. She has an amazing story where she was dead. She was racked with cancer. She had such a profound experience that she was told to come back and live her life fearlessly. Well, what would happen if we did that? If we recognized that the real paradise we could create is right here, and we're missing that by allowing ourselves to be deceived. And I want to thank you so much, Detlev, and I want to thank your European listeners, and also let you know that My weekly program has changed to Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So it'll be easier for European listeners who do speak English to tune in and to call in, and also for you to join me, so that we can really begin to make more connections with people who resonate with us, and to understand that another thing about United We Strike is it's not, while we are both co-founders, it's not about being leaders of other people. It's about being the leaders of our own lives. And the reason that people don't see big banners and everything on our site is because there's a lot of fear out there. We can't get big mega corporations to say, oh yeah, we want to lose profit, so strike. But we can talk amongst ourselves. We can step back together. And the reason that we have a monthly date, imagine if you're wearing a uniform and you know that you're outside of your morality and you're taking prescriptions to deal with a kind of horrific activity you've got to participate in when you go to work. Imagine knowing there's a date all around the world where other people are participating. Imagine the strength in numbers. Imagine just talking about that. Hey, what would happen if a lot of people took off their uniform and stepped into their lives on that day? You know, we can create a miracle if we stand together, but if we don't, something is coming. They are well prepared, and if we're not prepared and we don't stand together, we're going to be taken down. And while we look at these predictions of changing times, I really don't see it, Detlev, until we stop talking about it and start living up to what we're capable of and reclaiming our morality and reclaiming our power. And I want to thank you very much for all of your support, for your friendship. I love you very much, Detlev. You are family to me. And thank you as well for continuing with the United We Strike marathons. I did have to go out and get myself a little work to do, which I'm going to be going to here later today. But it's at the farmer's market. It's local, and I'm supporting myself, my neighbors, and not supporting this war. So look up Rainbow Warrior Tribe. I think, Detlev, I'm sure you're also a member, and a lot of your listeners are. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for beginning my 61st birthday on an up note. United We Strike. Power to the people through peaceful unity.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Karen. Yeah, and I was listening to you, as many did here, during your thoughts. Now, where can people reach you? Where can you give us a link where people can listen to your radio show?
Well, actually, if you go to UNITEDWEStrike.com, you can check out Karen's Corner, and it will list all the guests I've had. It gives you a link for the archive so that you can go and listen by date. And I'm also really updating my blog a lot more, again, right off the United We Strike page, so that you can keep up with my thoughts. I'm starting to add some of my poetry there, and I'm just working as I can, and also stepping back to live my life a little more, because, again, living in a 38 by 8 foot RV, and being on the marathon for 16 hours gets a little bit taxing on my wonderful husband who has to move around me. So I'm grateful that the marathon is continuing, and hoping to continue to plant seeds so that we can stop this nonsense before it stops all of us.
Well, now many men listening will be very disappointed that you are married. Yeah, I mean, just to mention this. Yeah, nevertheless, no, it's we all are a community worldwide. It doesn't matter which nationality, which language you're a part of. It's really a thing that humans have to stick together, have to join and fight this cruel, minority, which is trying to put fear upon us. That's what I said earlier on. That's their method. Once we are put into fear, we submit to their ideas. I mean, isn't this the main subject? What do you think, Karen?
Yes, that, and I believe it's extremely important as well to question our major belief systems and take a look at history in order to find out if we've been lied to there as well by the artifacts that show a different picture than the one that we've learned. And it also occurred to me this week, Detlev, that as we seek to prevent more war, these prisoners of war that are in Guantanamo, who have been tortured, who have been totally innocent, are not the only prisoners of war, but our men and women in uniforms are also prisoners of war because they have been brainwashed through trauma-based mind control and boot camp to forego their morality and to follow orders. And as long as we continue to follow immoral orders, we will be lost. When we understand that our lives are important, that our lives are more important than being a drone for someone else, and that we are capable of co-creating miracles, that our true job here on the planet is conjoint creation, bringing joy to all who contemplate it, then we can have the type of future that's worth living. Otherwise, we continue to watch as our world is destroyed around us for the few who laugh at us, who bet at us, who manipulate the weather. We're assaulted on every front, and at the very least, I believe that the people need a monthly day off to step back from the brink of the cliff, to turn off the television, and to truly look at what is happening and to do our own research, because we've got to let go of the fear in order to live a life that's worth living, and stop sending our children into this war machine to be chewed up and spit out by reprehensible criminals like the ones now who are running the world.
Yeah. Now, Karen, we will go on a quick break here. Would you be able to continue another half an hour or something, or are you under time pressure?
I'm actually on time pressure. I've watched the sun come up while listening to you prior to coming on. I had a cup of coffee, and I have to get out there and get busy. Actually, I got to get back, make the bed, jump in the shower, and all the rest of that to get my day going. But Detlev, thank you so much. Thank you, our listeners. I'm so grateful to your European listeners and to the terrific job that you have done and the word that you're spreading in your part of the world. And I'm grateful to everyone who contributes to the marathon. I put a link in to the chat room that talks about the national state of emergency that's been declared here from 1933 in the United States. So everything is set up to wrap us up and take us away unless and until we break through. And I will catch up with the archives later on. I want to thank everyone for the great job they do. And I am going to have to say, see you later, alligator.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's a pity, but we enjoyed you being here with us in this great interview, and we thank you as well, and wishing you lots of success today with what is coming up. So we are listening now to The Game of Truth, which has to do with what we just talked about by Tommy Truther as well, and we are in the UNITEDWESTRIKE Radio-Marathon September 14th. 2013, and maybe you can have a last word here for our audience.
Well, I would just like to say thank you very much. I want to encourage you to go take a good look in the mirror, take a look at your family, and don't buy, don't comply. Ask why we're here. Are you part of the problem or the solution? Do not sign up for the military. Don't let them take your children. And let's reclaim our world together. Power to the people through peaceful unity. Thank you very much, Detlev. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. And we'll be right back after this break.
You're listening to the International Community Radio Network.